that there's just...
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
It is June 1st. It's Stars in the House. And because it's June, we have Leslie Uggams. And if you don't understand that, you're not a Broadway person, but you will soon understand that. But overall, more importantly, because of everything that's going on right now in the country and really in the world, we are diverting our donations to try to help what's happening right now.
With the blessing of the Actors Fund.
Yeah, with the blessing of the
This is normally, if you're joining us for the first time, I'm James. This is my husband, Seth.
Hello.
And I think we've done 120 shows at this point since we started on March 16th. And for the most part, the majority have been for the Actors Fund, which helps professionals in the performing arts around the country in every aspect of the performing arts.
And by the way, they still need help, obviously.
Absolutely.
But there's an immediate pressing need, we feel.
100%. And Stars in the House has raised over $350,000 for the Actors Fund, which we're all very proud of and of our viewers. But because of all of the events that have happened in the past week, and quite frankly, the decades and centuries before this past week, but specifically this past week and this weekend, after consulting with our dear friends, Brian Stokes Mitchell, who's the chairman of the board of the Actors Fund, and Joe Benacasa, the CEO and president of the Actors Fund, with their blessing, beginning today and for the foreseeable future, we will have our funds go to the NAACP. I want to make sure I get it. There's a long name: Legal Defense and Educational Fund.
Incorporated.
Yeah, incorporated. And so you can go, and we're going to have people on. It might be tonight, it might be tomorrow, but we will have. We literally just had a phone call with them at 12:45. It is now 2 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, they were great.
So and
we're
fantastic.
We're evolving.
We're evolving like all of us. And so, but for now, of course, you can go if you want to donate.
If you want to donate, we have a direct link right there.
NAACP ldf.org/stars in the house. And of course, you can go to their website. But Seth will read a little bit something, and then we're going to get into talking to Leslie.
So NAACP is, is the beginning, and then LDF is Legal Defense Fund. That's why it's NAACP ldf.org. Stars in the House.
And just to be clear, it is a separate organization than the NAACP. They're obviously sister organizations, but they are a separate organization. But most importantly, for us, for our charitable aspect, and for a tax deduction, it is a 501c3. So I just want to be clear, it is a 501c3. Go ahead, Seth.
Yeah. So this is the very sort of like blanket, almost corporate talk about what they do. And the more we do these shows, the more we'll really find out some specific, amazing stories. But just so you know what they actually do. NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund. By the way, James is not giving me the limelight. He cannot find his glasses.
I have 3 pairs of glasses in the house. It has been one of those mornings. I have no idea. Leslie Uggams is laughing.
We searched we have
no
house.
idea.
He hasn't left the house in 3 months.
No,
can't find them.
Can't find them. I had three pairs of glasses last night, and even this morning, I have no idea where they are. So Seth is reading.
Yeah. So now I get the starring role because I have better eyes. NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund is America's premier legal organization.
Slower, Seth. I haven't even read this. Gotta go slower.
I didn't ask you to direct me. It's America's premier legal organization fighting for racial justice. So they're the premier one, okay? Through litigation, advocacy, and public education, LDF seeks structural changes to expand democracy, eliminate disparities, excellent, and achieve racial justice in a society that fulfills the promise of equality for all Americans. LDF also defends the gains and protections won over the past 75 years of civil rights struggle, excellent, and works to improve the quality and diversity of judicial and executive appointments. Wouldn't that be nice? So that's where you donate to help this great organization, NAACP-LDF.org/stars in the house. So this is all evolving. So Stars in the House, this is going to be an evolution. We're going to see where it's going to go. And how perfect that—
oh my gosh.
We have, talk about like an activist, like a trailblazer. She's everything.
Okay, so we have to go back a second before we bring on Leslie Uggams, because this has been in the works with her wonderful publicist friend, Jan, that like 6 weeks ago, I think we started talking and just about like having Leslie be involved in Plays in the House. And then, of course, today, June 1st, that of course we'll talk
Leslie Uggams Day.
And then who knew? It's like, it's almost like a divine, like that Leslie Uggams, with everything going on, that we had already had this planned, that you'd be literally our very first guest in June. I mean, I get chills thinking about it, because she is the perfect combination of what we love and about artists, is the perfect combination of an artist and someone who's been at the forefront of civil rights. And so it's with that we are so happy to introduce Leslie Uggams.
Yay!
Hi, Leslie. Hello.
Okay, first of all, how do you have a youth filter on your camera? What's happening? Flashback to the 40s. You look stunning. What's going on?
Thank you. Listen, I've been blessed with the right genes. That's all I can tell you. That's my secret only, you know.
Did your mom always look 35 years old?
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
She was amazing. Both my parents also had amazing skin. So that's a blessing that I got from them. And thank you very much.
Leslie, did you also get your talent from your parents?
Well, something is interesting is that both my grandfathers, who I never met, they had passed away before I was born, because I was one of those surprise pregnancies.
yes.
So, you know, my mother back then was, I think she was like 30 or something before she had me. And so they had both passed away, but they both sang. They were both ministers. Oh. And my Aunt Eloise, my father's sister, was on Broadway. She was in Porgy and Bess.
Wow.
She was in St. Louis Woman.
Oh my God, the big ones.
Yeah, I mean, so she was in theater, and she wound up touring all over the world with Porgy and Bess, and she had an operatic voice, and so therefore there was always music in the house, and I always sang. My mother said I started singing when I was 3.
I believe it, considering you were famous by the time you were 8. So yeah.
So I mean, music was always a part of our DNA.
So you know, when I say you were 8, I mean I didn't know until I first interviewed you your crazy history. I just always thought of you as the typical Broadway actress that hit it big in her 20s. I didn't know about it, and James doesn't know about it. So you got to talk to us about how you rose to fame as such a young girl before probably the internet. I mean, you handwrote a letter. Okay, so let's hear it. I'm fascinated.
Well, first of all, my first gig was at 6 with Ethel Waters. She had a local show called Beulah, and there was a part for somebody to play her niece. And I wound up playing her niece. And her boyfriend on the show was Dooley Wilson, who is famous for Play It Again, Sam in Casablanca. Yeah. I mean, it's awesome. So that was my first gig. I did an appearance on that. And then Ethel fell in love with my mother and I. And so she would invite us to what she would call her soirees, and she'd get up and perform and sing. So here I am at 6 years old, being invited to hear this legend perform every so often. And then that led to, there was a lot of kid television shows, and I was on Arthur Godfrey, you name them. I would win these contests, and I would be on for a week. And so I was gigging at 7. I was in a contest at Paul Whiteman TV Teen Club, and I won all these prizes, but I lost the big prize, which was a car, because they tied the clock on me. That was my first time really knowing what discrimination against Black people really were. And you could see him at the time. It had the old things that they measured, the meters, it would go this way. And there you saw this white man climbing under, tying the clock so that the other person who was white could win, because the sponsors had already given a car to a Black tap dancer and said enough was enough.
Wow.
And this is in Philadelphia, was where the show came from.
And when you say you could see it, is the video still online?
You could not. I could see it.
You personally could see it as it was happening.
As a child, you actually,
yeah.
My God.
And I remember crying my eyes out because I had lost. And my mother said to me, "Your father and I can't drive anyway. What are we going to do with the car?"
New Yorkers. Wait, that's hilarious. That's a sweet ending.
And sweet of your parents to protect you the only way they could in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, because I was crying my eyes out because I wanted to win. You got 5 weeks, you could win, and it was called Paul Whiteman's TV Teen Club.
Now I watched these clips of you performing as a child. You have so much knowledge of performance. Is that just ingrained? I mean, you're so confident. You have this big voice. Like, where is that from? Was someone training you?
I was a ham, really. I really was a ham, and the interesting thing is, when I started playing the Apollo, all these great people that I worked with, I was smart enough at that young age to stand in the wings and watch every single performance that they did to learn my craft. I mean, that's the best school I could ever gone to at the Apollo Theater, and working, with Louis and Ella and Dinah Washington, and then working with the doo-wop groups that came to be famous, like the Drifters. I played the Apollo from 9 till 16 years old.
Wow. I
was there Christmas time and summertime.
What do you think? Can you give me like maybe one thing you learned from Dinah and one thing you learned from Ella?
I learned how to cuss from Dinah. Dinah used to, in between shows, play cards with her musicians. And she wound up winning the salary back that she had given them. And the games were always outside my dressing room. And she'd say to my mother, "Close the door, Juanita. I don't want the baby to hear these cuss words."
Okay, that's an impressive skill. What did you learn from Ella?
From Louis, we got to be like family members with Louis, and he was amazing. And many years later, I was going like, "Oh, gee, it smells just like Louis," and then I found out that it was marijuana.
Oh.
I said, no wonder he was so fine and mellow,
You thought it was his cologne? Wonderful.
And with Ella just, she embraced me like I was hers. And I worked with her in the summertime, and she used to buy me ice cream. She thought I was too skinny, and she used to feed me a lot. But I also learned the power of, when you have it, how you can have an audience eating out of your hand. I always say, when I go see somebody, if I'm sitting watching you and I can go like this, you got me. They knew how to make the audience feel like they were part of the show that they were doing. So I got my stuff from the best,
It's not just enough having the talent. You learn how to perform because you have the natural talent. I had this clip of you. I guess you're singing about, they're like, you're too small, these 4 guys.
You know what show that is? That's Sid Season Imaging Coca.
Whoa.
At 10, I was on that show with them, and I would watch the rehearsals with all Mel Brooks, Rob Reiner, doing the sketches and teaching stuff to Sid Season Imaging Coca. Was I lucky with that?
Wow.
That's what that is all about. The Billy Williams Quartet.
Here you are. Look how confident you are. So fabulous.
Boy, I'm tall, tall is tall. I even feel like older.
Why, you almost look like sweet 16.
But you look dancing lame. You're all so small.
And you're so tall. But I love you just the
same. Oh my gosh. Well, there's also a video of me from the Paul Whiteman TV Teen Club where I'm singing a hip rockabye baby.
Who did those arrangements? Oh, I saw that. You're really young on that.
Yes. And what I love the best is that I pick up the baby, and of course it's a white baby doll. Oh God!
You've got a good attitude about the crazy shit you went through.
I mean, I went through it. You name it, I've been there.
How do you have such a good attitude?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, I think because of my dad. My dad always instilled in me, he said, don't put can't in your vocabulary. Yes, you can. And that's always been my thing. And even Diane Carroll, God bless her, she said to me one day, she said, I don't know, you walk through a door and you're like, hello world, aren't you lucky that I'm in it? And that's always been my motto. Hello, here I am. What are we going to do now?
You don't let things get you down. It's so impressive. Tell James a story about how you wrote the Name That Tune letter, because I started explaining it and he was like, what? So talk about that.
Well, Name That Tune was a big show, especially for families to watch. And it usually came on like 7 o'clock in the evening. And you could write a letter into the show saying, but you had to give them like 7 song titles, and then they randomly picked you. So one night we're sitting there having some dinner, and then they said, and next week, Leslie Uggams will be joining John Mahoney. And of course, we all looked at each other. There was a lot of screaming and yelling, and in the neighborhood, neighbors, everybody watched in the neighborhood. They were, oh my God, what's going on? So that's how I got on Name That Tune. Luckily for me, I knew a lot about music because of my Aunt Eloise. So I knew all types of music. And John, who was a kosher butcher, but he was Irish, was my partner. And so he answered the 7 songs correctly. And that's how I became his partner. And I was wanted to go to college eventually. And so $25,000 is what you won. And so I would get 12 sang. He's got the whole world in his hand. And the mail came in, and then each week I'd have to sing a song. And like the 3rd week, I sang the Lord's Prayer, and Mitch Miller saw me and signed me to Columbia Records. And my first album is called The Eyes of God. And it was kind of like I was doing Marian Anderson kind of thing for the record company in the beginning. But then when he got the television show, we started off as a special, and people loved the show so much we became a regular show. And he made me, asked me to be a regular.
Sing along with Mitch.
And sing along with Mitch.
How old were you, 15?
Yeah, how old?
I was 17.
So where were you in
15,
school?
I was 15 on Name That Tune. And I was 17 when I joined Mitch Miller. I was going to school, professional children's school, because I was always working. So the principal of public school said to my mother, you got to check out this school for performers. And that's how I wound up. And I was they only had 5 Black kids in the school. And Josh White, who was a famous folk singer, his children went there. And there was another boy. And it changed my whole life.
How old were you when you started PCS?
8.
And wasn't it all the way downtown? How did you get there?
I would get on the subway. I was the subway queen at 8 years old. And I jumped off at Columbus Circle and trot to school. That was my life.
By yourself? You take the subway?
By myself.
You got a lot of sass. Okay, so Mitch Miller.
But hold on, but Name That Tune was filmed in New York in those days.
Yes, it was filmed in New York. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get on Sing Along with Mitch, and I read that it took him a long time to get the show in the air, right? He kept trying to get it on the air.
Well, he kept trying to sell it, and nobody was interested in 25 old sing-along guys. And the reason he got it on is that NBC was doing a lot of specials with big stars, and the ratings weren't good. And finally, the head of the network said, "All right, let's put that show on, see what happens." And it exploded, and that's how we came on television and every week. But unbeknownst to me, there was a lot of things behind the scenes because the South would not take the show.
Because you were on it.
Yes. So they came to Mitch and they said, we don't want her to be a regular. And Mitch said, no, she's part of the family. So then they came back to him and they said to him, well, could we isolate her? They wanted to do what they did to Lena, where they could take you out And he said, no, 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 we're not doing this. Then they came back the third time and they said, well, can the sing-along men they stopped touching each other? And they were going through all of this, and the show became such a hit that the South put the show on the air, and some of my best fan mail came from the South, which was it was crazy. It was crazy.
Leslie, did your parents know? Like, who knew what was going on behind the scenes?
I never knew that. Mitch kept that from me. I didn't know that till years later. But I tell you what, we did get death threats, and for a while we had the FBI watching us because we had gotten death threats. That I was aware of.
You knew about that? Oh my gosh!
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think it means that you got the fan mail from the South? That there were people in charge that were racist, but there were people that weren't? Is that what it meant?
It's like the life we lead. There's always some upper echelon person making decisions without realizing, what do the people want?
Exactly.
People wanted to see that little chocolate girl on that show.
Wow. So you become this big hit at 17. Was your aim Broadway this whole time? Weren't you trying out for Broadway shows?
Well, let's go back a little bit. At 8 years old, I was taking acting classes.
Of course.
With Sal Menio. And with this wonderful teacher. And I also took tap lessons and vocal lessons. You did all that as a kid. And my parents were happy because it kept me out of the streets because we lived in a tough neighborhood. So I always was studying. I studied acting a lot all through my teens. And so it wasn't like I wasn't prepared. I was just waiting for an opportunity. And we did a program. There was a great school called Actors Center. And what happened was we would put on little shows, and we did a musical version of This Property is Condemned.
Yeah. Which,
I played the young girl. And unbeknownst to me, several people had come to see this little workshop. And they were like, oh, maybe we can do something. Of course, nothing ever happened with the thing. But I had that background of learning, and we would get up and get critiqued by, our teachers and stuff like that. And that really was, I thought, oh, I could do acting, because I always acted in front of my mirror anyway. So this is a great opportunity. So I just kept studying. But I have to say, the person that changed my life around, and I was married by then, was Stella Adler. When I was doing Hallelujah Baby, my husband was a stockbroker. So he had to get up early in the morning, and I would then go to the theater, and he'd be sleeping, and, because of the hours and everything. And so he decided, well, I'm going to take some acting classes. And Stella fell in love with him. She loved him. She thought he was the next Marlon Brando.
Wow.
That's how good he was, but he didn't want to do it. But so that's how I met Stella, and we became friends. And then I started taking her class, and she said to me, you can do this. You tell stories when you sing. So she taught me and changed my whole life when it came to acting.
So you you're already in a Broadway show, and then you started taking acting lessons more seriously.
Yeah.
What do you think changed about your acting? How did she change your acting?
Well, learning, I didn't know all the technical stuff, like, where were you before you came into the room?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I didn't know that kind of thing. I didn't know that, you should build a history of the character that you're doing. So she taught me all those things. But she also said, and she said that to every class member, darling, don't be boring. You do something with it. And, you do a scene in class, and then she'd say, now, this is how you do it. And then she'd get up there and just go, oh, my God, now we get it. I mean, it was that kind of situation. I was so lucky. I also went to the actor studio for a minute before her.
Did you not like that?
Bobby Lewis was my teacher, and he was a very big time there at the actor studio. I was too young. I didn't get it, it was overwhelming. he saw something in me at that time that I just didn't see when it came to learning acting and scripts and stuff like that.
I remember reading that I feel you were cast as the lead in The Boyfriend, which was sort of a big
Hello.
change. How did that happen?
Okay, so Berkeley had, I love it. Berkeley had a thing where they had television people come in and do these different musicals. And because of Sing Along with Mitch, they asked me to do this show. And I was like, really? We did The Boyfriend. I was the only Black person. The audience loved it. We were the big hit of the season.
Mm.
Then we heard that Lena was not going to do Hallelujah Baby, and that they decided to find an unknown to do the show. And when I came, I was doing it out, Berkeley, California. When I came back to New York, they wanted to audition me. But I had a gig in New York at a club down in Atlantic City called the Harlem Club. And I couldn't audition. So can you imagine? Condon and Green, Arthur Lawrence got in the car and came down to the Harlem Club.
Whoa.
A midnight show to see what I could do. And they liked what they saw. And then they were interested in me doing it. And then when I came back from doing the gig, they wanted me to read for the part. And at that time, oh God, hello, Dolly, the producer. I can't.
David Merrick.
Yes, David Merrick was a part of it. I did my audition, and when I finished, I looked up, and he was sound asleep.
He's a mess.
And I said, "Well, it doesn't look like I'm going to get this part." Anyway, I did get the part. But then he bowed out because he really wanted Lena to be involved. That's why he got involved. And they finally came up with other people who were interested in backing the show. But that was my audition for Hallelujah Baby. Can you imagine, in all those chocolate faces at the Harlem Club, here these three white people sitting in the audience to see what I could do.
Leslie, did you know that they were coming, or was it just a surprise? And
no, I knew that they were coming down because they really wanted to get going with this project. And I said, "Really? They're coming to the Harlem Club?" And they did come. I thought maybe not, but they did come.
Were you nervous? Did you see them in the audience when you were performing?
I don't get nervous.
Look, my nerds make me, it gives me that oomph. I use it. Because I feel if you're not nervous, you must be dead. I mean, it's a big deal to walk out on stage and please people who paid their money to see you. So I just used that. And I remember I had this sexy gown on, and one of the songs I said, "The Shadow of Your Smile," which, songs like that. And they liked what they heard in my range and stuff like that.
Wow.
And I think white people could come down to a Black club, honey. Why should I be nervous?
Got the sass. So much sass. Okay, by the way, don't forget, we are raising money tonight. As you see underneath that, I keep forgetting to remind you guys, NAACP,
LDF.org/Stars
/Stars
in the House.
We have two things to ask. So when you were cast in The Boyfriend in a role originally played by Julie Andrews,
Yes.
so people weren't like, what? Because normally in those days, when Pearl Bailey took over Hello Dolly, the entire cast became Black.
Yes.
So what was the reaction when you did it? It's so groundbreaking.
They just the audience would give us standing ovations.
How great.
It was like to them, "Oh, this is a wonderful show." Nobody, turned around and said, "Wait a minute, both her parents in this are white."
I love it.
Was that the first time in Broadway history that there was? I'm sorry.
It was in Berkeley.
But still, that there was like that sort of diverse cast. Well, now it'd be called diverse casting,
Right?
Yeah.
Colorblind casting.
Colorblind.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, at Berkeley, you're at Berkeley, so.
Oh yeah,
There's that. Okay.
Yeah.
Element.
But I also say, I think it's hilarious that with your 1,000 years in show business, you were still considered an unknown.
Yeah, right.
How much do you have to do to be known?
I don't know.
Okay, so was that was your first Broadway show and you were the lead?
Yes.
Wow.
And let me tell you something funny. So first day of rehearsal, you know, you do the reading. I didn't know you do the reading. I had memorized it already. So all the people are sitting there with their scripts and they're talking and I'm talking back. And one of the actors looked at me and said, "You're going to be trouble." I didn't know. Nobody told me. It's like, you know, 7:30 when, you know, it's supposed to be there for a half hour. I would stroll in close to 7:30 till finally my hairdresser said, "Miss Uggams, you should come in much earlier than that." I didn't know anything.
Wow.
Such a novice, and yet they entrusted you with this part, and you got.
And I was on stage all but 3 minutes in that show.
Whoa.
So first of all, talk about Arthur Lawrence, because he's
And he went on to win the Tony
you won the
Award.
Tony for it too, right?
Yes.
I didn't even know about nominations and all that stuff. Somebody came out dressed and he said, "Congratulations, you've been nominated." I said, "For what?"
You're like a mixed bag of like total professionals, know everything, and such. I love it. So hold on. Arthur Lawrence was known as a cranky ass. What was he like during rehearsals?
Cranky. At one point, they had these umbrellas made. They took the song out of the show. It was called "When the Weather's Better," and it opened up. The curtain would open up with me standing there with the umbrella, but with my likeness on the umbrella. Rehearsal comes, and he said, "Get that out of here!" So not only did the umbrellas go, the song went.
Wow.
But, you know, Arthur and I had a very interesting relationship because he always looked at me like, because I wasn't Lena. You know, Lena was his best friend, and they had a falling out. That's what happened, why she didn't do the show.
Cranky ass.
Right. So he was cranky ass anyway because of all that. So he always kind of looked at me strange. Some years later, I bumped into him, and he said to me, "You're getting better." I said, "Well, thank you, Arthur." Then years later, when I did the Lena Horne thing called Stormy Weather, he came to see me, and I didn't know we were doing a little workshop at the Signature Theater, and he came and saw it. But I was in Thoroughly Modern Millie, and he came on a Tuesday, and I had to rush back to the theater. He
You
came.
did 2 shows.
I did what?
You were doing your own show and starring in Thoroughly Modern Millie?
I was doing Thoroughly Modern Millie, but we were doing this little workshop in between.
Oh, a workshop. Okay.
And so he came back and he didn't see me. And Arthur wrote me the most wonderful letter. And I was like, "Is this the Arthur I know?" And then I spoke to him on the phone, and he was just raving, "You're the one to do it. I'm so proud of you." And he said, "You know what?" He said, "Bernadette, you know, she's doing Gypsy. She's going to go out on the road with it, and I want you to take over when she leaves the show." I was like, "What?"
Wow.
Wow. So he softened 40 years later.
No,
It took 40 years.
How wonderful. And then you got to play Mama Rose just a couple of summers ago.
Yes. Up at the University of Connecticut. And, well, you know, that's a part that's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And
I feel like I'm Mama Rose.
Yeah. There's so many things we want to talk about. I'm going to talk about this in a minute, but hold on. So, you know, since we're raising money for NAACP, have you ever had any experience with them? And what kind of social activism have you done? Have you been able to balance your career with social activism and also pursuing your career?
I became a lifelong member of the NAACP when I was 6. They made me a member when I was 6, and of course, you know, it meant a lot to my family because in my neighborhood we were the have-nots in my neighborhood, and we saw a lot of things that happened. You know, we see what's happening today, but it's been happening a long, long time. So I used to say, the Black Shirley Temple in my neighborhood. You know, I mean, I was supportive. They were supportive of me. They loved that I played the Apollo. And when I played the Apollo, Black people couldn't even shop at the department store called Bloomstein's on 125th Street. You couldn't go into Woolworths if you were Black.
In New York,
even on 125th Street?
In Harlem. there was a restaurant called Frank's that Black people couldn't go to. And my mother and I were the first to go into that restaurant and have a meal.
How is that allowed?
Because things were opening up, and my mother was always a lady, and we got invited, and hell yes, we were going to go. We didn't know what was on the menu, but we were going to go. You know, and so my thing is, with my career, I've been able to break barriers for so many things because that didn't happen before. You know, it didn't happen before. I mean, how many times did you have a Black leading lady on Broadway? You know, that was big too. You know, so through my career, I've been opened doors for a lot of things, and of course, television. I was the first Black performer on a regular television show on national television, because Nat King Cole, remember, he lost his show because he couldn't get any sponsors, and he had, you know, Sammy Davis Jr., Harry Belafonte, Frank Sinatra, all these people came on the show, and the sponsors would not sponsor him. So it was a big deal when I became a regular on Sing Along with Mitch. That was really, really big deal.
Wow. And
what year was that, Leslie?
We went on the air in 1961 till 1964.
Wow.
Okay, well, James and I are writing each other because you have so much of a career to cover. We don't want to cover it quickly. So I think we're going to literally ask you to come back tomorrow. We're not joking. So he just wrote me. So we've got to cover something much more important today before your career.
Because it's June 1st.
Yeah, and that is...
Well, it's still June 1st.
Exactly.
So for everyone watching, just know that Leslie contacted us to talk about this. This is not us forcing her to talk about it.
Exactly.
So if no one knows the video, I'm going to show the video, then we'll deconstruct it, then I'm going to show it again. So This is a live performance of June is Busting Out All Over. Leslie, of course, sounds exactly the way she does today. It's always been the exact same voice since she was basically 6 years old. The voice is amazing. The lyrics aren't 100% up to snuff. And let's first watch it, and then we'll deconstruct the story. But this is Leslie Uggams, June is Busting Out All Over. Enjoy. Here we go.
But in Oscar's case, as these songs will attest, it was better than good. It was extraordinary.
June is busting out all over the meadow and the hill. But the busting out of bushes and the rumbling river riches all the little wheels that wheel beside a mill. June is busting out all over the tents. And the individual drifts and they hucking up the cheapest out of all the morning glories on the fair. Because it's June. June, just because it's June.
Miss
Now listen. No, I'm not Ella Fitzgerald in the scatting department.
You sort of are.
My best.
Okay, so for everyone that's thinking, oh, she's so unprepared, how did she not prepare her lyrics? Please tell everybody what actually happened during that live telecast.
Well, what happened the night before? It poured rain. I mean, it really came down. So the next day, everything was soggy. The grass was like mud. So what happened was that we had a cue card guy, because at the last minute they wanted me to sing this song, which was not in my repertoire. You know, so I said, okay. They said, don't worry, you know, to be on the cue cards and everything. But they weren't thinking that, wait a minute, you have me walking in the grass to get up on the stage. So I'm walking, and the cue card guy and the cameraman, and then the cue card guy slipped and fell. The cards went flying in every direction. He's face down in the muddy grass, and I have to keep going because it's live. So the shock of him on the ground with cue cards everywhere, my brain went, you got to keep going. So I wasn't Ella when it came to scatting, but I did the best that I could. I was so happy, Seth, to get to that last note.
You just sold it. So hold on. So you do it. you're just sort of making stuff up and you're committing to it. But then when you ran off the stage, were you just all laughing with your friends about what happened?
No one said a word. Nothing. Not even my husband or my friends who were there. They didn't say anything. So I just kept going. It wasn't until years later when that video started going around, a friend of mine said, honey, do you know you in every gay bar in America? I said, doing what? He said, singing June is busting out all over with translation. I said, what? I had no idea.
So you hadn't even thought about it in all those years. You thought no one noticed and you just moved on.
Right, because, remember when I started, television was live. You didn't say cut and you could do it again. So what you saw is what you got. So I thought, okay, well, that's over. What the heck? I didn't realize there was some bad guy in the control room that was filming this for future reference.
Everything disappeared. Okay, now you know that it's so famous. Like my friend Ruthie Henschel was in putting it together, the Sondheim show. And Sondheim lyrics are so difficult. Anytime someone messed up a Sondheim lyric, the person who messed up the Sondheim lyric the most got the June Award from the cast. Because like
I didn't get an award.
You got credit. Here is the translation for people that haven't seen this. This has everything written out what Leslie actually sang, and it doesn't quite make sense. Reading it along. Here we go.
June is busting out all over the meadow and the hill. For the busting out of bushes and the romping river riches, all the little wheels that wheel beside a mill. June is busting out all over the tents. And the little bit with bridges and they hucking up a jeepers out of all the morning glories on the fair. Because it's June. Just because it's June.
Miss Uggams, excuse me.
Oh my God, that was the craziest day of my life, but I kept going because I had more numbers to do.
You're so profound. I know you just on to the next. It never happened.
Right. In denial.
Did the cue card guy ever say anything to you?
He's still there.
Okay, so I was saying something else. So during this whole social distancing, now by the way, you're going to come back. Besides talking about your career, you're going to do Blithe Spirit very soon. Also,
this Saturday.
Our play.
Yes.
Saturday, 2 o'clock. So, we always have Dr. John LaPook on our show from CBS, and he says it's very important to keep in touch with your friends throughout all the social isolating. And sometimes it's difficult to reach out to your friends. So we thought we'd bring a friend to you. Perhaps you know this person. Here's your good pal, Michael James. Leslie, hey.
That's him. He's the one? Yes.
Yes, I'm the one. She had no idea that it was even on video or anything. And I was the one. Was in a bar in Chicago. And and by that point we had done Friends. We had done Call Me Madam at the Paper Mill. And so I'm sitting there screening, they're playing Jennifer Holiday. And then all of a sudden Leslie's on, and I went, I've never seen, oh my God. So then when I got back, I called her. She had no idea. And I said, girl, you are in every gay bar in America on Monday and Wednesday night. And it had at that point, now that was a few years ago, but even at that point, I think I had 800,000 hits.
Wow.
That people were going back into it. And, as she always does, she made lemonade out of lemons. You know what I mean? It's like, it's incredible. And I said to her at one point, I said, you ought to put that in your act. I think you just want to put it in your act because I think everybody knows about it. And and she did, and the audience loved it.
Yeah.
So Michael, Leslie so well. She really does seem like she makes lemonade out of everything. Is she just like the most positive person you know?
She is. I mean, she's human, and she has she's probably the nicest person in show business that I've ever worked with, and there are many stories about it. But I remember when we were doing Call Me Madam, her birthday, which just passed on the 25th. They made a big cake in Leslie Uggams' image. At that point, Playbill was doing things way over the top. But anyway, there's this huge, 6-foot cake of Leslie Uggams and stuff. And there was a girl in the chorus who had the same birthday. And Leslie made absolutely sure that that birthday was about that chorus girl. And I've never forgotten that. It was just, it was a thrill. And for me, as you were talking about the history and with the NAACP and all that, I always try to tell people the importance of the fact that Black people really didn't like Mitch Miller. But what we would do is we would turn in every week to see Leslie, because Leslie was the only Black person in a regular series. You might see Lena on a show or something, but you didn't see something you could turn in and say, there we are. You know what I mean? And so it was very important. And so when Idea called me Madam, I walked into the room and she was there. I couldn't even talk for a second. Yeah. And then I just made a I made it back and said, okay, I want to be her friend. I don't want to fawn over her like these boys fawn over people in show business. I'm going to be a friend. So I was very aloof with her. And so as time came on, we just got closer and closer. Also, she has a ribald sense of humor. So me saying something inappropriate doesn't bother her. I have said some of the most bizarre things known to man, and she just laughs.
Did Leslie give you the confidence that you could have a career in show business?
Oh yeah. I mean, especially for me, I wasn't an R&B singer. I had a much more, I grew up, I love Frank Sinatra, I loved Caterina Valente. Nobody even remembers her.
Oh, yeah.
Remember her? And people like that. And so here's this Black guy who sings in this way. So you'd look to Leslie or people that came on and, Nat King Cole, or people that came on and sang that way. And I said, oh, God, I want to do that. But, you're an overweight guy from Brielle, New Jersey, and you realize, well, you know what? I'm gonna do it, and that's the reward of it. And when I was a kid, there were 4 people. It was Leslie Uggams, it was Lena Horne, I love the Supremes, and Eartha Kitt. So as I grow older and get in the career, I worked with Leslie twice. I danced and worked with Eartha Kitt. I became friends with the Mary Wilson of the Supremes and met Lena 3 times. So you got a dream, right?
So here we are. We're raising money for NAACP. It's sort of the beginning of what we're trying to do. Do you guys have any advice because we're all supporting what's happening right now, but a lot of us don't really know what the hell to do. Do you have any advice, Leslie or Michael, how we can really help this civil rights struggle right now?
We need people like you, white people, to be with us. We can't just do this alone. We all have to be outraged. And the wonderful thing that we're seeing is young white kids out there marching with Black people who we've had it up here. I mean, if you see something like that, somebody being murdered, where are we going as a country? But we need your voice.
Yeah, and I must say, and I've been around a while. This time, this has struck a chord where I've had people call me, send me email messages, text me to ask me, like you're asking, what can we do? Are you all right? What can I do to help you? In a way, in an honest way that I haven't seen in years. So it means that it struck a chord, a very, very, very deep chord. I think it has something to do with the pandemic, because we're now in a time when people are looking inward and looking at their lives and realizing, oh, crap, I've been pretty bad or whatever. And that has been heartwarming. Just that reaching out is heartwarming. And I just think that you have to do it on an individual level. You can't change the world by trying to change New York City, but you can change how you deal with your friends on an everyday basis.
Michael, by the way, how do we know each other? Have we ever done a show together? Because I know you, but I don't know.
We one time, there was a Broadway classroom.
Yes.
and I came in. I think you were playing.
Yeah, I was playing.
I was working with the kids on choral stuff.
I knew it because I know that we've actually.
That's the first time we met. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to keep telling people where to donate. NAACP, LDF.
Well, yeah, LDF, Legal Defense Fund. Yeah.
We're 100%, Leslie. I'm going to text you right after this because we do want to bring you back. But Michael, I know you have a little sort of inspirational surprise for us. So
this is for for Leslie and the NAACP, and please contribute to them. But through my life, this song has meant a lot to me in terms of the church, and also just the struggle that continues on to this day. So I would it's going to be a cappella, so I'll be all right, I'll be all right, I'll be all right someday. If in my heart I do believe, I will be all right someday. We will walk hand in hand. Well, we will walk hand in hand. We will walk hand in hand someday. You know that is in my heart. I do believe you and I will walk hand in hand someday. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid today. If in our hearts we do believe, we are not afraid today. We will see his face. We will see his face. We will see his face someday. If in our hearts we do believe, we will see his face someday.
Wow. What a beautiful voice, man. So natural.
Well, following in the steps of the diva.
That's beautiful. All right, so Michael James, Leslie, you're amazing. And speaking of Leslie, I'm going to text you right after.
I can't tell you how many comments that have been like, you have to bring Leslie back. So we want you back sooner rather than later, but we don't want to pressure you in front of everyone. So we're going to text you and call you after.
It's pressuring me that way, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's right, girl. That's right, sister.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. That's my buddy. So I'm so glad that I got a chance to be on.
Michael, tell them I'm a good cook too.
Oh, she's a good cook. She's a great cook. And she's also a sports enthusiast. And also we discuss politics all the time.
Wait, what kind of cooking? I want to know, like a signature meal.
Well, he always spends Christmas with us, so it's turkey and stuffing and the greens and the Cornish hens, and I cook everything. I cook Italian food. I cook everything.
Any good desserts?
Oh, well, my daughter is the dessert person, and she can make some incredible cookies. In fact, the choir BIV that she's with, she usually makes a whole batch for them. They look forward to her cookies. And they're gluten-free, and they taste great.
Yeah.
Our daughter's gluten-free. Once this quarantine is over, we're visiting.
Okay. All right. Absolutely.
All right, you guys, we'll talk soon. Leslie, expect a text. Michael, you're amazing. I'm going to roll the final credits.
And we are having a show tonight. We're still figuring it out, but it's going to be me and Seth and Shelley Williams. You know Shelley, Leslie. And so we're going to be having a discussion. We'll see who gets added, but we're figuring it out, just like everything else. But that's at 8:00 tonight.
Speak to you later, Leslie.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You ready, Seth? Roll the credits?
Here's some credits.
Okay.
What is it? And the Robin River wishes on the wheels beside a bill. I don't know how to play this damn song. You know what? I play as well as she knows the damn lyrics. So there you have it. But June is busting out all over. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll be back tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, raising money for the NAACP, the legal